Welcome to the High Voltage Light Electric Vehicle channel. This video is going to be an initial review of the HiBoy P6 electric fat bike. Before I get started, just a few caveats to this. Reviewing products is not a huge part of the channel, but I really do love electric fat bikes. I think they make the best electric bikes hands down. The stability you get, combined with the ability to go on pretty much any terrain, is in my opinion not matched by any other bike type. The stability in particular is great with less experienced and older riders and gives them confidence when riding. The fat tyres also help to counter the lower quality of suspension and the lack of full suspension that comes with bikes at this budget end of the market. In the interest of transparency, I was sent this bike free of charge from the HiBoy company. I am under no obligations though in terms of what I can and cannot say, and had that been the case, I would have refused to review the product. The channel has been built on brutal honesty, and this is no different. I can always review another product, but what I can't do is get back lost subscribers because I sold out. So for this video, I will give my initial thoughts on the bike as it stands, and my thoughts after going and doing some riding. I'll go over what I like about the bike, what I don't like, and also where I think the company can make improvements to make the bike better, which I think is why they sent it to me in the first place. So let's have a very quick look of what you get when one of these arrives and how it goes together. So the bike came in this absolutely massive box here. I'm not used to getting bikes in boxes, so it seems pretty massive to me. I felt a bit sorry for the UPS guy trying to struggle to drag this out of his truck, so I went and gave him a hand, and it's pretty heavy. So based on like an initial inspection, it looks pretty nicely packaged. It comes with a fairly small accessory kit of various parts that need attaching. There is a fairly thorough looking user manual as well, so I'm going to spend a few minutes and get this all put together. So here we are with the packaging removed. I have to say it's extremely well packaged. I don't get a lot of bikes like this, so I don't know if this is the standard for packaging bikes or not, but things like protecting the disc brake is done here. There's no marks on it. Everything looks in good condition. So I'm going to put the few parts that I have to assemble on it here, and I'm also going to be going around and checking a lot of the bolts and things just to make sure they are tight, and I'm not got any concerns about that. So it's taken me about probably 5 minutes to get to this point, and I have been over all of the major bolts, particularly the ones with the calipers at the front and the back, and everything seems to be tight. It seems to be well put together from the factory to get it to this point. I particularly like everything that you might need to do has been clearly labeled on the bike as well as in the instructions. So really somebody that has no idea about anything to do with a bike is going to be able to do this very, very quickly. Okay, so here she is put together. It's not a difficult process. My first impression is just how complete the bike is. Right now you can get this on sale for just over $1,000 US. The usual price I think is about $1,300 US. I'm not quite sure how they're going to manage to do that. In no particular order, the motor at the back is a Bafang 750 watt hub motor. These are pretty decent motors for what it's being asked to do here. The drivetrain is a Shimano Alto, which although at the bottom end is still a name brand. I like the inclusion of a cage to protect the derailleur from drops. It's a nice touch that can make the difference between riding the bike home and pushing it. It's a 9-speed and it feels pretty smooth. The pedals though do feel rather stiff, and I'm probably going to replace these. The brakes are the mechanical disc type, which when looking at other bikes in this price range seems pretty standard. The levers have built-in brake cutoffs, which I feel are important for this bike as it has a cadence-based pedal assist system. They feel okay to use and are well adjusted out of the box. They have the Wuxang logo, which means they're made by Star Alliance, which are one of the better companies making switches and levers. I believe that the switches, display and throttle are all from the same place. CYC Motor also use the same company, so they have a pretty good reputation. The throttle is a half twist, which is my preferred method, and in my opinion it gives the best balance of safety and comfort. The wiring overall is clean and looks pretty neat and tidy, with quite a bit of it being internally routed. The 4 LED headlight at the front is a nice touch, as is the inbuilt horn, which is insanely loud. It's perfect for letting cars know you are there, but I don't think it's so good for shared use paths where you're probably going to give walkers heart attacks as well as upset animals. I think I will alert people as I normally do with a polite call out. You could also add a bell. There's no rear light, which would be a nice extra addition. The display is simple but effective looking, and it actually works really, really well in the sunlight, with bright sunlight on it, with your sunglasses on, which I found is not very common with e-bike displays. The seat is actually pretty comfy feeling with a couple of springs underneath, and we'll see how that is after doing some riding, but I'm quite impressed with it for this level of bike. The tyres look to have a decent tread, but are very much on the budget end, and how long they'll last will be interesting, as will if I pick up punctures or not. The forks have quite a bit of adjustment to them, and you're not stuck with one particular setting. The battery is not the biggest and looks to be pretty slow to charge. I will do a realistic range test so you can see how far I'm able to go on a charge. If they're looking for things to improve, maybe they could offer a version of the bike with an extended range battery. I do like that it's removable so that you can charge it in a safe location or a charging enclosure away from where you store the bike itself. Overall though, there's quite a lot to like here. In terms of improvements, I think that adding in an option for a rack at the back would be good. There look to be some mounting points, but it's not exactly clear what they do. I like that it comes with a stand, but I did notice there are no mud guards, and I think those would be an excellent addition as an add-on, if not a standard. In wet weather you will get soaked pretty fast with fat tyres without some kind of guard. It is a heavy bike, so loading it in a trailer or rack is going to be pretty hard work. I am hoping that the mechanical disc brakes will be sufficient. I think I'd be willing to pay a little bit extra for hydraulic ones, but we'll see how it goes on the riding test. So those are my initial thoughts out of the box. I'm going to give it a good ride around, and you can see some of the footage here. I'm going to do a lot more riding on beyond that and range testing and that kind of thing. So this is just going to be some initial thoughts after riding. So this is my usual route that I put bikes on, as it lets me compare them at a later date. I'll be doing some more off-road type trails as well to see how I get on with it there. Jumping on the bike, I stuck it in level 5, which is the maximum. I'm not sure how much power this actually is because it's not on the display, but it feels pretty zippy. It goes up to about 45 kph and then it cuts the power. So there's definitely a limiter in there somewhere, although it's not set to any particular local law here. No real complaints about the throttle. For a heavy bike that costs around $1,000, it has way more power than I was expecting. The brakes are not as responsive as hydraulic ones, but I was able to stop them without issue. I am 150 pounds, so a heavier rider might struggle a bit more at speed going down a hill. There is definitely less modulation than I'm used to with brakes, but I didn't feel particularly unsafe or anything like that. The pedal assist I think needs refining, and I'll be having a chat with HiBoy about how that can be done, because I really felt that the brake cutoffs were essential with this bike and were needed more than they perhaps should be. It takes a couple of turns to engage the pedal assist, and then it remains activated for longer than I would like it to afterwards. The effect is that when you're cornering and want the assist to drop off, it keeps going on too long. It would make it difficult on tighter trails. I found myself using the brake cutoffs to kill power a lot more often than I'd want to. I wanted to engage much more quickly and disengage much more quickly after pedalling stops. This is pretty common with BBS and Bafang motors, and they can be tuned to be much more responsive in this regard. I couldn't see a way to change any of this with the instructions though, and with it being a Bafang, I'm assuming that I'll need to use a programming cable to make this kind of change. I will ask HiBoy if this will be possible. They might just be better off though sending the bikes out as standard with some different settings. With the late engagement of pedal assist, having the throttle to start on hills is definitely essential. In terms of comfort and riding position, I was pretty happy. The seat is much more comfortable than the one that came with the Jetson Bolt, for example. This was not the longest ride in the world, but I'm also a pretty bony guy, so I tend to feel it quite quickly with uncomfortable saddles. I found the gear shifting to be smooth, and there was no crunching of gears. I did get a bit of noise though when cornering, but I think that might be the tyres. I really like that I could glance at the display and easily read it in full sunlight. Lots of much more full-featured displays used on e-bikes struggle with this, including things like the Egg Rider and 750C. So whatever the tech they're using with this one is, I think other display makers should take note and just use that kind of screen. I'm not sure why they don't. It's pretty easy to take a display out into the sunshine, put the sunnies on, and figure out that it doesn't work very well. Probably my least favourite part of this bike is the tyres. I did have a few question marks on them when I first saw them. The main issue is that they want to keep turning when you're going around corners. I have had more expensive tyres do that, so I'm not sure it's a cost point. My big smoothie tyres that I had with the Specialized Fat Boy did the same thing, and I do have a spare set of tyres, so I might replace them. It's hard to criticise too much because a higher end set of fat bike tyres is well over $300, and that's like a third of the cost of the bike. I'll do some experimenting with tyre pressures, and it might be something that can be improved. Although if you go too hard with fat bike tyres, you also lose a lot of riding comfort. So the summary for now: for just over $1,000, it's hard to argue with this bike in terms of value. There's no way that I could build an e-bike with components for this price, even utilising second-hand parts and every contact I can find. I still think the best e-bike you can have is one that you convert yourself, but if you're on a budget and you don't have a bike, then this is definitely something that you could consider. I want to have a play with the pass settings because I think I can get a better set of stock settings in there, and I think then HiBoy could just use those as standard, and I think that will greatly improve how it feels and make it better for trails. Because right now I don't really want to take it out on something that's narrow until I can do that. I think that adjustments to pass will make this much more rideable. For the time being, I'm going to do some more riding. I have a cargo trailer that's about to be brought back into use, so it's going to be fun to test it out with that. My dad is also here right now as well, so it's going to be fun to see what he thinks of the bike. I want to do a range test with this and see if it'll take me up to my favourite view spot in town and back. Once I have a chance to do a load more riding with the bike, I'll do another video with my final thoughts on it. If you have a bike in this kind of price range, let me know in the comments. How long did it last you? Did you run into any issues? Have you modified it in terms of tyres or brakes? Anyway, thanks for watching the channel, and a huge thanks to all the channel members, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.